So I had debated on whether or not I wanted to do this, if I wanted to do like sort of like a review recap over this series, because this series is very controversial, y'all. This is like the prequel to Game of Thrones. Now, if you've seen Game of Thrones, it's very controversial. It has a lot of nudity, cussing, a lot of bloodshed. And so a lot of people are like, oh, you Christians shouldn't be watching this. You're Christians, you know, whatever. But I like doing reviews over shows and movies, okay? So that's why I'm doing this, all right? So don't judge me, okay? Anyways, so this is episode 4. I'm going to go back and talk about the previous episodes, but I wanted to get in on episode 4 now. I'm very late, but better late than never, right? So episode 4 started off, if I'm not mistaken, with the royal family. They're on a ship going to, I forgot what the name of the castle was. Anyways, to where Corlys and them were, so that he could go ahead and set forth this marriage proposal that he, like I said, I'll get into that later in the other video. But he's going across the sea. This man, he is just breaking down more and more by the day. Like they had brought him, I think they had brought him a pot to throw up in, and he was like, no, I'm fine. And then right after that, he ends up throwing up. Like he ends up going to the end and throwing up or whatever. And he was talking to I forgot his name, the guy who he promoted to be his new hand of the king, who should, if you ask me, he should have been the hand of the king. He was always giving Viserys good advice from episode 1, from day 1. Whatever, anyways. Should have been listening to him, but they're on their way to meet Corlys. Otto Hightower and packed his junk, and he's vacating the premises. And Alicent is like crying in the rain, like, I don't want you to go. And I'm like, are you sure? This is the same man that literally pimped you out to the king. You don't want him to go? Okay. Anyways, I get that that's her father, but still. She was like, I don't want you to go. And he was like, well, you're the reason why I'm going, or part of the reason of why I'm going. And I felt like it was a slap in the face to blame her, because I get it. Yes, she did, you know, in the previous episode, she was like, I believe Rhaenyra when she said that she didn't sleep with her uncle. But even her father was like, listen, she's your friend, and I know maybe she didn't sleep with him, but she's not innocent. Like, you know, parents know their kids, okay? Parents know their kids. Most parents know their kids. You know, parents, sometimes they have that relationship with their children where they might not always get along, but they'd be like, if something happened and they'd be like, your kid was involved, yeah, that's something that mine would do. But anyways, she just wanted to believe Rhaenyra. And I believe she just did what she thought was the right thing to do. Now, for him to blame her for getting kicked out, that was just absolutely absurd. Otto got kicked out. Okay, him being a snake in the grass. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to refer to him as a snake, because that's an insult to the snakes. Okay, he was just a skeezer. He's a skeezer, like having people spy on Viserys' family so he can come back and be like, oh well, you know, I heard. Like he brought that on himself. Okay, y'all, make no mistake. He was being sneaky. He brought it on himself. Then he starts talking about listen, you're going to have to start raising Aegon to take the throne. Either you're going to have to do something, or Rhaenyra is going to put your children to the sword to keep the throne. So you're going to have to prepare for war. Like, and I'm like, okay, help me understand something, y'all. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm a little too harsh on some of the people in this series, but I just feel like Otto Hightower is such an awful person. He pimped his daughter out to the king. She had sons for him. He literally put her in a position where she now has to defend herself. Because yes, it's true, everybody's gonna want Aegon on the throne because he's a boy, and they're not gonna want to listen to Rhaenyra because she's a woman. But you put her in that position by pushing her on Viserys to begin with. Y'all wouldn't even be here if you weren't, like I said, a skeezer. But anyways, and she was just like, you know, like looking like, I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. And I'm just like, girl, please, like, you'll be fine. And so then he leaves, and she was like all upset. And then So they're like I said, they didn't made it to the island, doggone it. Laner is over here, I don't even know if he was training for real, or if they were just, him and his side piece, basically. And then he was like, where is Corliss? Well, the hand, he was like, where is Corliss? Is this how House Valerian greets their king? Lena come out there. She was like, I'm sorry, my father, he just came back from a long trip. He's in the den. He's in the living room, like. And he was like, is this how House Valerian greets their king? And Viserys was so far over it. He was like, let's just get this over with, please. Like, he was just so sick and tired, literally and figuratively. So then they go and they meet him in the room. He's just sitting there. Like, so what was wrong? He's just sitting here on his behind. What was wrong with him meeting him? Anyways, I feel like he was still mad. He was still being petty because of what Viserys did concerning his daughter. I get it. He never got an apology, but still be the bigger man and just, bury the hatchet. But anyways, they come in there and he's like, oh, hey, how have you been? And he like bows. He's like, oh, please stay. And he's like, it's so sad that we had to meet over this, depressing occasion. And he was like, what are you talking about? This man didn't even know his own sister-in-law was dead. That's another thing I forgot to mention. This episode actually started with Daemon. Okay, listen. A lot of people have been talking about, oh, we love Matt Smith. We love Matt Smith as Daemon. He's doing such a phenomenal job, and he is. I knew Daemon was no good. Like, I knew from episode 1 that he was like sleep with his niece no good. But I didn't know he was off his wife no good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't think he was that bad. I was like, man. Because at first I was like, she was like riding, and she was not bad looking. Y'all, he was talking about her like she was like the ugliest thing next to a random box of rocks on the street. Like, she was not bad looking. And she was like, oh, have you come to consummate finally? Oh, I forgot, that's right. The sheep are prettier. Would you rather consummate with the sheep? She had all the jokes for him, and I don't blame her, because he dogged her for real. And he was looking at her. The way he was looking at her, like, with that hood on, he looked like death personified. I was like, I don't like these evil vibes that he's giving with this hood on, with this black hood on. And then she was like, so what are you gonna do? Slay the child? Or are you gonna? And then it finally clicked in her mind why he like interrupted her, her little trot back to the castle. And I was like, please don't tell me he came up there to kill her. Please don't tell me he's gonna do it. And he does it. And the way he does it was so brutal. Scared her horse and made the horse fall on her. And then I guess when it fell on her, she must have hit her spine in a way that paralyzed her. And I was like, oh my God, like the horse fell on her. And then she was like, I knew you couldn't get it up. I was like, oh my God. Is that well known? Okay, well. And he was like, I got something for you. And then goes pick up a rock. And I was like, no, don't do it. And then they switched to like somebody, chopping the head off of a fish to help you understand what happened. And I was like I said before, I knew he was bad, but I just didn't know he was that bad. And then, so back to Corliss and the king. He was like, oh, I didn't know that Lady Rhea had passed. And he was like, oh, yes, hunting accident. She fell off her horse and she smashed her head on a rock by mistake. And he was like, that's so sad. Like, she was such a good wife to my brother. And I was like, that doesn't sound suspicious to you at all, Viserys. And then Rhaenys comes in. And she was like, cousin. He was like, cousin. And then she like goes to like shake his hand. And then she looks down at his like missing fingers or whatever. She was like, oh, because she didn't see him within that time frame of him missing his hand, of his fingers. And he was like, are you well? And he was like, oh, yeah. Knowing good and well that he ain't well. And so then he was like, I came because I wanted to propose a marriage between my daughter, Rhaenyra, and your son, Sir Laenor. And he was like, House Targaryen and House Valerian being joined. I see we're coming back to that junction again. But can I at least, have them keep the Valerian name? And I don't blame him for asking that, because what man wouldn't want his son and his grandchildren to carry on his name? Like, that's normal. Like, I didn't think anything wrong. You can only ask, right? Anyways, and so I guess Viserys was, like I said, he was just sick of it. He was like, fine. They can have the name Valerian. son. But the heir, when he ascends to the throne, which is going to be the oldest that they have, he's going to take the name Targaryen. And he was like, that's all I could ask for, I guess. So they agree on it. They strike it up. And then, then when he leaves, Rhaenys, listen, the guy who he made the hand, I can't remember. I think his name was Sir Harwin. I can't remember. I don't think that's what his name was. But the guy who he made his hand, the hand of the king, him and Rhaenys, they seem to be the only really intelligent people in this series. They really be giving her some serious wisdom here. She went to college and she was like, you are putting our son in danger. And I was like, he is. Y'all are. Because, I guess they'll look the other way about him not liking women, but that's not really what the main problem is. The main problem is, she was explaining, whenever those children that Alicent had for Viserys came of age and Viserys died, it was going to be an all-out war. They were not going to want Rhaenyra on the throne because she was a woman. And anybody connected to her, so her husband, whether or not they actually were, involved as husband and wife, and their kids were going to be in danger. That's just how this stuff goes. She was like, you're putting our son in danger. Whenever they come after her, they're going to make him a target too, and our future grandchildren as well. And he was like, don't worry. It's fine. We got this. He's like, he'll grow out of it. And I'm just like, those are some famous last words. The mothers, listen, you can say what you want to. Mothers be knowing. They be knowing. They be knowing, and they be knowing what's going to happen most of the time. Fathers, they just be sometimes they just be operating. I'm sorry for any fathers watching. Y'all just be operating in incompetence sometimes and ignorance. That's why you need, a good woman by your side. He was saying, well, you were supposed to be the queen. He went back to that again. And she was like, listen. She basically just told him, I'm over it. I'm over it. And I don't blame her. Because I wouldn't want them trying to kill me to place somebody else's son on the throne. You can have it if that's the case. Anyway, so they're back on the boat, going back home. And then Sir Criston Cole, and all of his handsomeness, comes up to Rhaenyra and starts, talking about something. Listen, I know you don't really want to do this. You don't want to go through with this marriage with him. And you talk about how you don't like your duties all the time. So just run away with me. Essentially, what he did was propose to her. He was saying, look, I don't have anything else. I messed up because I slept with you. I ruined my vows of chastity. Just come with me. Be with me. You don't want to be here? No way. And it's the truth. She did nothing but complain to him. She had been complaining to him about all that stuff. And I think, so this is a saying that I had whenever I saw this. I was like, don't complain to somebody who loves you about all your problems, your job, your friends, your spouse, your this. Don't complain about certain things to people who care about you, because they will come up with solutions. And if you don't want solutions, then you need to make that clear. You need to be like, listen, I just want to vent to you, that's all. I didn't want you to actually come up with a solution to help me not complain anymore, basically. I'm not saying you can't confide. Just, you gotta be careful with that. It's the example, I don't know if y'all ever heard how there's a woman, she's married to a husband and he's not really a good husband. She complains to her sisters. Now her sisters hate her husband, and they're like, well, what do you want us to do? Hook you up with somebody else? Not with the attitude or to be sarcastic, but they care about her. So because she complained to them so much about the problem, they want to come up with a solution because they care. So that's why you gotta be careful with doing that kind of stuff. But anyways, essentially he proposed to her. And essentially what she said was, dude, I ain't about to run from the Iron Throne and a dragon for you. Please, to go be a nobody somewhere. That's basically what she said. She wasn't about to give up the Iron Throne. And, dude, I got a dragon. They're not going to probably, I would think that they would let her keep it if she, ran away with the dragon in him. But they please. She was like, I have ambition. The Iron Throne is for me. And he was looking at her you could see his world come crashing down. He didn't paint a whole future for them. And she just ripped it. She just ripped the painting. And he just walked off mid-sentence, which I don't blame him. Because he was saying, she was saying, you could just stick around. I told Sir Laner that he could have his on the side, and I could have mine. Because, they had that whole conversation where she was like, I understand your situation. We just got to get married to satisfy our parents. And we got to do it, I guess, once or twice, maybe to have a child. And then you can go do what you want to do. I'll go do what I want to do. And he was like, so essentially what you want is for me to be your whore. It's like, I guess, I don't know, it's just the way he said it, it made me laugh. But it was true. And I was like, that's not what he wants. And you can't blame him for not wanting that, you know? And she just broke his heart, basically. And I was like, see, you done messed this man over. And he didn't see them sleeping together as just casual sex. He actually started to catch feelings. And then, too, because he'd spent a lot of time with her. So quite naturally, this is pretty natural for him to, like, fall for her or, like, want to be heavily involved, especially since he gave up his virginity for her, Anyways, so they make it back to the castle, and then, doggone it, Allison calls in Sir Christian Cole and was asking him, like, because, she had that conversation with Sir Harwin Breakbones, his brother, the guy with the club foot, and he was just being messy. I was like, see, that's just messy. Talking about some, I heard that the maesters gave this tea to the princess. Is she well? I was like, see, he's being messy right there. Whose side are you on? And so she was like, what are you talking about? Is she well? And he was like, oh, I heard that she was unwell. And I was like, wow, you just ruined it all, man. You just ruined it all. And she was like, I haven't heard nothing like that. I'm pretty sure she's fine, though. She is fine. And he was like, oh, well, that's so great. Like, and he kept putting an emphasis on, that's so great. I'm so glad to have been wrong. Like, he was really trying to plant doubt in her, and he did. So she calls over Sir Christian Cole to try and, like, figure out if it's true or not. She keeps beating around the bush. I was like, girl, if you don't just spit it out, boy, you better keep your mouth shut. Like, she kept beating around the bush so much that I guess he just got so unnerved that he thought that she was talking about him, and they were thinking about two completely different things pertaining to the same, thing, but two completely different people. And he finally just blurts it out, I'm sorry, the sin you are speaking of, I have committed it. And I was like, Kristen, why can't you keep your mouth shut? If you would have just kept quiet a little bit longer, you would have found out that's not what she was talking about. I was like, man, you didn't blow your cover. But it's not his fault. It's not his fault. She was like, thank you for your honesty. And this man, he was so heartbroken. I think, like I said, that was just everything to him, to be with Rhaenyra. He was so broken that he was like, at this point, just let them, he just wanted a quick and painless execution. He was like, please, just grant me that, if you will, if you'll be so kind, queen. And she was just like, she was so busy being upset and hurt because Rhaenyra, well, she didn't necessarily lie. She, like, lied by omission, so to speak. She was so upset because Rhaenyra didn't tell her the truth. She was like, you can go now. And a lot of people were saying, and I saw, like, a lot of comments in some other videos saying that, like, she was reacting more like a scorned lover than a best friend. But I get it. Like, I don't think that they had more than a platonic friendship. But I think she was more mad because she felt like her taking up for Rhaenyra is what got her father kicked out as the hand of the king. And that's really what made her so upset. But like I said, he needed to go anyways because he was just doing dirt under the table. Anyways, so then they all, they get to the little ceremony. And there, the guy, I forgot what his name, he was like introducing people to come in. And the Lannisters came in, and doggone it, what was his name? I forgot. The one that was talking about I could make a den for your dragon. She was like, why would I need that? Anyways, she was like, I couldn't find a better man to be with. And he was like, that was like subtle shots by Rhaenyra, very well played. And this idiot is going to sit there and say, he's like, oh, where's the queen? And Rhaenyra was like, oh, she's just taking a long time to get ready. And he was like, see, this is why men go to battle. Because women would take too long. And they were just sitting there looking at him like, read the room, you dumb bunny. Like, do you think that was really appropriate of a joke to make of the queen? First of all, the queen. And to say in general, with knowing that there's a woman who's the heir to the throne. They were like, you're dismissed, Lannister. And then the Valerians come in there. Man, the Valerians look so beautiful in that black and gold. I was like, look at the Valerians. Applause for entrance. Beautiful, magnificent, regal, noble, okay? And they come in there, and then Lena sits down, and then I thought that they were done, like, introducing people, but apparently not. Damon shows up. Just shows up like he owns the place and walks in there and just, like, smirks. It's just that smirk that he has. It just, that smirk. Like, he just walks in there and just walks down. Didn't nobody even introduce him in. He just walks in there, but Sarah is just like, that brother of mine. And then he sits down, and then Viserys stands up and he starts to make his speech. And then Alicent makes her arrival mid-speech. And a lot of people were saying, like, oh, that was so like cool, like it's a declaration of war, because she out on green. And everybody was saying, like, the color, so the high tower on, you know, their actual tower for the high towers, the beacon on top of it lights up green when they're going to war, basically. And her having on green basically meant she's going to war. And so I thought it was a pretty powerful statement, but it was kind of messed up that she interrupted the king while he was speaking. Like, I know don't nobody respect him, but you know, they had queens that were losing their heads for stuff like that in other kingdoms and in other times, right? Anyways, I thought it was disrespectful. But anyways, then she comes down and she looks at, you know, Rhaenyra, was like, congratulations, stepdaughter. Like, oh, I'm so happy for you, Rhaenyra. Like, you could tell. If somebody didn't tell, if something was wrong at that moment, y'all were just not paying attention. Anyways. And she kisses Viserys and then sits down, and he was like, what was I talking about? It's basically, I'm like, Viserys, come on now, Viserys. But anyways, I get it. He's old. He was old, so, you know, but still, like. So then he was like, you know, they were like, oh, you were saying, you know, so and so and so and so. And he was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's where I was. Thank you. And then he starts like going back with his little speech or whatever. And then, you know, the bride and the groom, or the future bride and the groom, danced together. And they were like talking about, you know, she was like, you know, I'm not really much of a dancer. I really don't know how to do this that well. And he was like, oh, don't worry. It's just like combat. She was like, oh, well, let's hope it has a better outcome. And it was even ironic that she said that because of what happens later. And so they're over here dancing. And then Daemon is looking over at Lena, giving her that smirk face and the goo eyes. And I was like, listen, you done already screwed up with Rhaenyra. You done already screwed Rhaenyra over, or you done already tried to mess her up. Let's just be honest. Rhaenyra was already buck wild. That's just the truth. So you didn't really mess her up, but you tried to. Don't go and mess up Lena now. Like, don't do that. Don't do that to her. Leave her alone. Leave her out of it. Anyway, so then they all start dancing, and they were doing a little dance or whatever. So he gets up. Oh, and before that happened, what's his name? So the guy, I forgot what his name was. He was the cousin to Lady Rhea. And it was so sad because I know he asked her, he was like, do you want me to go with you? And she was like, no, I want to be alone. I guess she was just upset or whatever. He was understanding. But I know in his mind he was probably thinking, if I had just like went with her anyways, or if I had just been like, okay, and then like trailed behind her, I could have been like sure if he actually did it, or I could have stopped it, you know, like could you imagine the trauma that inflicted on him, the fact that he cared about her? Like, that was his cousin, you know. Anyway, so he goes up to Daemon and he was like pissed off, which he had the right to be, because I know he knew that Daemon did not care about her, and he knew that Daemon had something to do with it. He was like, you know, back in the Vale, men are meant to answer for their crimes. And he looks at this man like he was the dirt underneath his shoes. He was like, and who are you? And he was like, I'm Sir So-and-so. And he was like, and who are you? I was like, so you didn't even take the time to get to know this woman's family? That's how much you couldn't stand her? For no reason, really. Anyways, he was like, I am the cousin of the late Lady Rhea. And he was like, oh, that's who you are. And what's your problem? And he was like, I know you did something. And he was like, I know that somebody was there that day. And he was like, are you confessing? Like, he really tried to flip the script on this man. I was like, boy, Daemon is something else. And he was like, no, I'm making an accusation. And he was like, I mean, well, here in this kingdom, people can get put to the sword for making accusations. And he was like, you cretin. Well, no, I think that's what Lady Rhea said to him. And then he made it even worse, and he was like, oh, by the way, I'm so glad you introduced yourself to me and you let me know who you were, because Lady Rhea stood to inherit all of Runestone, didn't she? Which, since we didn't have any heirs, it goes straight to me. So I'm gonna be going to meet with someone, and I should be seeing you there, right? I should be expecting you. And he was like, I came up here to confront this man, and now I gotta deal with him even more. I was like, Damon ain't no good. Like, Damon is really something else. So then he just walked off. Like, at that point, I was like, man, he was gonna nail him, but he got nailed instead. I was like, man, that sucks. So anyway, then he gets up and he starts dancing with Lena, and I was like, please leave this girl alone. Like, I guess it's true. He really don't care about nobody unless they look like him, or unless they are his family. His family, basically related to him. He was like, did anybody tell you look as pretty as your brother? She was like, ha ha, you flatter me so much. She was like, I'm sorry about your late wife. And he don't really like stand and cross his arms and be like, well, I'm not. She wasn't good to me. And I'm like, no, you weren't good to her. Okay. And then they were talking about something. And then meanwhile, he sees, Rhaenyra dancing with Laenor, then dancing with somebody else. And then Sir Harwin Breakbones, okay, apparently Mr. I Got Hands, was looking at Rhaenyra and was like, I'm going to go dance with her. And I was like, oh, that's Sir Harwin Breakbones. He wants to dance with her. He should dance with her if he wants to dance with her. And then, doggone it, Damon just breaks that up real fast. And Harwin was looking like, I just got over here to dance with her, and then you gonna come up here, and I can't say no because you the prince, He was like, can I? Yeah, you're gonna let me dance with her. And so she was looking at Damon like, I can't believe you showed up here. Like, she looked at him like she couldn't stand his guts, which is understandable. He left her alone in the doggone in the whatchamacallit, what was that place called? In the place. The place, I forgot what it's called. He left her there by herself, half naked, high and dry, hot and ready, you know what I'm saying? And she was just looking at him like, he gonna have the audacity. I know this is not what you want. Like, is this what you really want? Like, Sir Laenor is a good dude. Yes, he's a fine knight, whatever, but he's gonna bore you senseless. And at this point, she's looking at him like, why does that even matter to you? You left me in the middle of the whorehouse. You left me there and didn't tell me why. Like, just abandoned me. She was like, why do you even care? And he was like, so of course she caught on that he wanted her. And she was like, what are you gonna do? Like, and I was thinking to myself, I think she was being sarcastic. Because I think some people were like, oh, look at her, she's still trying to get into Damon's pants. I was like, no, she was being sarcastic. She was saying, you standing up here doing all this, making a show because you want me to marry you. But what are you going to do? Like, my father has already promised me to Sir Laenor. What are you going to do? Cut through my father's Kingsguard, kill Sir Criston Cole, throw me over your shoulder and take me back to your castle and make me your wife? When she said that, I just busted out laughing because I kind of felt like he would do it. Like, he's that family member. Don't tempt him with doing something crazy, because he will do it. Like, he might just do it. And he was looking at her like, dare me to. Like that, like I said, he's that family member. You don't dare them to do stuff like that, because they might just do it, She was really like, you're going to have to kill everybody up in here and then take me and, like, do it. I want to see you do it. And he was like he was looking at her like, I bet you I will, though. I was like, see, this needs to stop. And then it was so cool how they set up this scene where he had grabbed her by the neck, and then, like, Viserys was looking, and he was like squinting his eyes. He was like, well, it was more like a narrowed glare, you know what I'm saying? It was like he said, he was getting mad because he was like, I've been trying so hard to keep this girl away from him and to help clear her name. Like, what do I have to do to, like, fix this? He was getting so mad. I don't blame him. Your brother shouldn't be trying to stop you and threatening to, like, kick you out or banish you over and over again. or put you to the sword to keep you from screwing his daughter, your niece. You know what I'm saying? And then all the people like moved in the way where he couldn't see. And I'm just like, really? And then all you hear is a scream. Now I had saw the trailer, so I knew something bad was gonna happen. I saw the trailer, but the way they snuck it up on us in that moment, that was really good. How they snuck it up on us. So you hear somebody scream, and then at first Viserys is still trying to like look through the crowd to find Rhaenyra, and he looks over and he's like, "What's going on?" So of course, like in any situation when somebody gets into a fight, like I'm sure everybody has been here before. You at school, somebody sucker punches somebody in the back of the neck, somebody swings on somebody, a tight circle forms like a bunch of idiots, so there can't nobody get in to break up the fight. And in this case, they were really idiots because they were just pushing each other like back and forth. They didn't bump into Sir Laenor. They didn't push Rhaenyra down on the floor, and she's trying to get to Laenor. Lena's trying to get to Laenor because all she saw was him going further in the circle. His boyfriend Lionel is getting his face bashed in. At first I was like, who is fighting whom? And then you see Sir Christian on top of him, beating him. I mean, just beating him. Like, he's making this boy's face look like a gorilla went to town on a pumpkin or something like that. He's literally bashing this guy's face in. And then the guy, I think his name is Lionel. Yeah, he takes out a knife. You know, I was like, well, it's good to have a weapon on you because even if you don't know how to fight or you're not like a knight or something like that, it's good to have on you. So just in case anything happens, like, he's just trying to defend himself. He takes out a knife. This man blocks his arm and then breaks it. And I was like, oh my God. And they show us the break, the sound, him screaming. I was like, I can't take this. This is too much. Not TOOMUCH. TEW. This is too much. This is too much for me. And he's still like pounding this guy's face, and you hear him screaming. I was like, oh God, this is too much for me. I was in shock. And then what I forgot to mention before then, what led up to this point, him, first of all, basically he didn't propose to this girl. And like I said, she didn't basically say, listen, I'm not about to live like I'm poor and ragged for you. Like, I'm not about to give up the throne, my dragon, and all the benefits of ruling and sitting on the Iron Throne and my ambition for you. I'm sorry. Like, you're just gonna have to like be my side piece, basically. How embarrassing, and like how that probably hit his pride and his integrity and his ego. That was embarrassing. That's embarrassing. You telling somebody you love them and you want to spend the rest of their life, your life with them, and they tell you, oh no, I gotta marry this other person, but you can stay on the side though. I can give you some on the side, like that is embarrassing. My ego would have took a hit too. And it's not just about ego, it's about what's right and what's wrong. Like, she was just wrong. She did him dirty, y'all. I don't know if y'all realize that. She did him dirty. Anyways. So he's dealing with being rejected. His feelings are hurt. Being told basically, you could be my whore, but I can't marry you. Like, I'm not going to leave my life for you, even though I've complained about it up until this point. He didn't accidentally snitched on his own self to the queen. To the queen of all people. The only way that could have been worse is if he would have told it to Viserys, maybe. And then this dude gonna come up to him talking about some, because he's like whispering to Sir Laenor, talking about some, I know who our paramour is. He was like, who? He was like, it's Sir Criston Cole. Look at him. Like, he's so dumbstruck over her. He looks like a sad puppy in the rain. Like, look at him. And then, why did he have to go talk to him? Why? I just didn't think that was necessary at all. Like, I don't even think that Sir Criston knew that Lionel was Sir Laenor's side piece. I don't even think he knew that. He did not have to go even mess with him. Why Lionel took it upon himself to feel like he had to go and tell Sir Criston, well, you know my secret, I know your secret, so we should keep them safe together or whatever, and it sounded almost more like a threat to me. Like, low-key, it kind of sounded almost like a threat. Like, but why he felt like he had to take it upon himself to go and talk to Sir Criston Cole, why he had to do that, like, without even consulting Sir Laenor and Rhaenyra first, like, that was unintelligent. Okay, I'll just put it that way. I'll be nice. I won't say it was stupid, but I will say it was unintelligent. Okay. He didn't even have to talk to him. He didn't even have to mess with him. He could have talked to Sir Laner and been like, get your boy in line. Or get your girl boy in line, okay? And then it looked like I could have just been seeing things. But it looked like to me, once he told him, like, so, you know, you're going to keep your mouth shut as we keep our mouths shut, and we're going to protect them and cover for them. It looked like he patted him on the butt to me, or on the back. I could be wrong. But the look in his face, the look in Sir Christian's eyes, whenever he did that, it was like he had snapped. Like, I mean, he had been snapped. But, it's like he snapped. And then he, like, passed right in front of him. And, like, I saw, like, I've seen all the YouTube videos, or most of them, breaking down. Well, the main ones, like, Emergency Awesome, Heavy Spoilers. I've seen them, okay? And I think it was Emergency. No, I take that back. New Rockstars as well. I saw New Rockstars video, and he pointed out how he passed so close in front of Sir Christian Cole that he had to, like, move his sword up just so he could pass. And it almost looked like he brushed in front of his, like, you know, his family jewels, so to speak. And I was like, why would you do that to somebody? Like, why would you do that, sir? And if he hadn't snapped before then, he definitely was cuckoo in the head at that point. First of all, you're going to come here and you're going to tell me that you know that I better keep my mouth shut, and that you told me some information about you and somebody else I didn't want to know. And then you're going to pull a stunt like that on me? Like, did nobody tell Sir Lionel that you don't piss the guy off, that one knows how to fight, two has a sword on him? Okay, Sir Christian was packing. Okay, he had a sword. And he had them hands. Why would you do that? Why would you pick a fight with somebody like that? Just because you're, like, what, a lord and he's a knight? Like, that's not stopping him from catching you in the alleyway on a rainy day when nobody's around and beating the snot out of you, you know? Anyways, that's what started the fight. And then, like I said, he was beating Lionel. I'm still thinking about that scene. I'm like, I was a little traumatized, I'm not gonna lie. And Sir Laner came in there trying to save Lionel, and then he punches Laner in the face, and I'm like, see, he didn't cross the line for real. Like, he didn't already cross the line, but he didn't punch the future king consort and bloodied his face. And then the king is looking around, and, like, you know, Lord Corliss, he's like, stop this at once. Like, he's trying to make them stop. I'm like, look, there's no stopping now. Like, it didn't got kicked up. There's no stopping. And doggone it, Rhaenys is looking around like, you know, where's her son at? She's trying to find her son. And then the king's like, where's Rhaenyra? He's looking through where's Rhaenyra? And then he looks at, what's his name? You know, the hand. The guy who was the hand. And he looks at Sir Harwin Breakbones and, like, gives him, like, this nod. And then Sir Harwin, like, turns and he just starts punching people. One punch man, literally. Sir Harwin Breakbones was socking people out. And I was like, okay, come on, one hitter quitter. Like, he was socking people. I mean, he was throwing some hard punches, y'all. And he was moving people out of the way, pushing people out of the way. I mean, he got the job done. I don't know what the nod meant necessarily, but whatever it was, Sir Harwin took care of it. He got the job done. He literally paved a way to Rhaenyra, threw her over his shoulder. She was like, put me down. And I thought it was so cute. I'm sorry, the way she said it. She's like, put me down. Like a little child when you pick them up and they're like, I'm not a child no more, put me down. And he, like, runs with her, like, back to, you know, safety or whatever. And I'm like, girl, you better be thanking him. They could have trampled you. They could have trampled you. Somebody could have stepped on your foot, on your hand, bumped into you, knocked you into something. He got you out of there. Be thankful. And then finally, the crowd goes silent enough to hear the sound of Sir Christian Cole's fists bashing this young man's head in. And then he's, like, yelling. And then finally he stops. And literally, like I said, this man's head was caved in, guts and blood everywhere. And everybody was like, oh, and he was just looking like, oh my God. Like, I guess at the moment, like I said, he had snapped. And when he did all that, he wasn't aware of he was aware, I guess, but he didn't realize what he was doing and how far he had went. But then when he realized, he was like, I didn't goof for real. And the crowd clears out. And then Sir Laner sees Lionel laying on the floor in a pool of his own blood with his face bashed in. And he crawls over to him. And then he just starts screaming and crying. And I was like, well, I tell you, this could not have gone worse if we asked for it. And I kept wondering where in the world Damon was. He really made a mad dash out of that. Did y'all notice that? Like, he was nowhere to be found during all of that. But anyways, I laughed. It wasn't funny, but I laughed because the next scene was them getting married. So it was like, Viserys was like, you can forget that little week of festivities. You can forget waiting to the wedding ceremony. Y'all getting married right now. Like, he was like, I'm not letting nothing else happen. You're not about to get whisked away by your uncle. You're not about to go get caught up in no more brothels. That's the word that I was looking for that I couldn't figure out earlier. No more brothels with your uncle. You're not going on no more sexcapades. You're not doing no more stupid stuff. You getting married today. And I was like, but that's kind of messed up. Like, after what just happened, though, they cleaned up the boy's body, but this blood was still on the floor, fresh on the floor, and y'all are gonna get married in there? I was like, oh my God, that's kind of horrible. And poor Rhaenyra, she was just upset. Sir Laner still was crying. He was like, I am yours, and you are mine. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is horrible. Meanwhile, Sir Criston Cole was about to unalive himself. In front of the little crying tree. I forgot what it's called. He was about to unalive himself. And I was like, no, don't do it, no. I guess he just couldn't live with it. Like, he messed up. It was a mistake. And then he snapped, and then he messed up again. I guess he just felt like he couldn't live with it anymore. And Alicent stopped him. And I was like, well, thank goodness somebody stopped him. And I can tell she's going to use this against Rhaenyra. Or she's gonna like probably have him on her side. And I'm sure it's gonna factor like against Rhaenyra in some kind of way. And I was like, well, at least she stopped him. And then another thing was when all the commotion was going on, and like I said, whenever Sir Criston Cole was breaking in Lionel's face, Viserys' nose started to bleed. And I noticed, I kind of was looking at him before his nose started to bleed, and it looked like his nostrils were like kind of red. So I guess maybe his nose had been bleeding before, maybe even. But I guess he also wanted to speed up the wedding because he didn't know how much longer he had, But none of that was important because apparently in the next episode, it's like a 10-year gap. It's like a 10-year time jump. A 10-year time jump. And he's still alive. Like, a lot of people were like, we don't believe this. Like, with the health problems that he was having, bleeding from his nose, coughing, like, hairline receding, sores all on his back, losing fingers by the day, which could have been diabetes for all we knew. But they were saying that he had leprosy, basically. That's what his main issue was. That they just not believing that he survived for another 10 years. And I have to agree with those people, but nonetheless, they get married and then he collapses. And they're all like, oh my God, the king. But yeah, this episode, I was traumatized. I was laying in my bed and I was like, I still can't believe that happened. Like, wow, that's crazy. Death at a wedding, right? I was like, wow. But yeah. I was like, yeah, nobody knows how to do it like the Targaryens. Got people over here beating people up because they're you didn't mess this man up. You didn't jumped his bones. He didn't have no choice, really, if you think about it. And you didn't mess him up, and now he went around here crazy. Essentially, that's what happened, really. But like I said, I was shooketh. This episode had me shooketh. I get it. Like I saw Game of Thrones. They had some scenes that were like the red wedding, when they trapped them in there and stabbed up Robb Stark and his the woman that was carrying his child, stabbed the child. Well, they made sure to stab that womb. They said, "Oh, you gonna get her. So you gonna say our girl it's not pretty enough for you. So you gonna go ahead and get this other young lady and gonna get her pregnant and knocked up, and then gonna still come here and think we ain't gonna do nothing about it." And then, like I said, and then they killed the dog. Well, he was a wolf, more like a wolf dog, but they killed the dog too. And it was the extra, like, it wasn't enough to get him back that they killed him, his mother and the woman and his unborn child. They killed the dog too, and then sold the head. Spoiler alert, obviously. What they did with the dog, I'll just put it that way. So if you haven't watched that one, what they did with the dog, that was just sick. That was just sadistic, y'all. Like I said, I seen Game of Thrones, but this was just, I don't know. And maybe it was just because it had been so long since Game of Thrones, since the brutality of Game of Thrones, that I just wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't ready, I just wasn't ready for it. But yeah, I was like, wow. But yeah, y'all tell me what y'all think down in the comments below. Yeah.